24-year-old young woman full of ambition and life was brutally taken in broad daylight. Brianna Kupfer, alone in a furniture store, sent one final chilling message before her life was stolen. What happened in those harrowing moments? This is the story of a violent crime, a broken system, and the fight for justice. Brianna Nicole Kupfer was born on April 9, 1997, in Los Angeles, California, into a lively and close-knit family. She was the second eldest of 4 children, with 2 brothers and a younger sister. Growing up, Brianna stood out for her drive and determination. From an early age, she demonstrated a natural talent for academics and extracurricular activities, becoming a straight-A student. Her leadership skills were evident as she served as the captain of her high school cheerleading team, where she was not only a role model, but also a beloved figure among her peers. Brianna's academic journey continued at Brentwood High School, where she further honed her skills and built a strong foundation for her future. After high school, Brianna pursued a degree in public relations at the University of Miami, a step that further showcased her ambition and desire to succeed. During her time at Miami, Brianna also spent time in Australia as part of a student exchange program, where she broadened her horizons and embraced new cultures. Her creativity was one of her defining traits. Brianna loved sketching, sewing her own clothes, and had a deep passion for fashion design. Her dream was to one day launch her own fashion collection. Outside of academics, Brianna maintained an active lifestyle. She practiced yoga, enjoyed dancing, and even took up boxing, staying physically fit and mentally sharp. After graduating, Brianna returned to Los Angeles, where she enrolled in a graduate program at UCLA to study architectural and interior design. While living with her parents, she began working at a high-end furniture store, balancing her academic ambitions with the need to support herself financially. Brianna's early life paints the picture of a young woman full of promise, ambition, and a passion for life. On January 13, 2022, Brianna Kupfer was working her regular shift at Croft House, a luxury furniture store located in the Hancock Park neighborhood of Los Angeles. Brianna had agreed to cover a shift for a coworker, which meant she was scheduled to work alone that day. At approximately 1:30 p.m., Brianna sent an unsettling message to her manager, expressing that she was feeling uneasy around a customer. She wrote, "Can you call me? There's a customer here and I'm getting a weird feeling." Unfortunately, the manager did not see the message immediately. By the time the manager returned the call, Brianna had stopped answering. Meanwhile, a couple entered the store and noticed something was off. They walked through the front door, which chimed as they entered, but there was no one at the counter. As they ventured further into the store, they saw something strange behind a sofa. When they approached, their worst fear was confirmed. They found Brianna's lifeless body covered in blood. The couple immediately fled the store and contacted the police officers arrived at the scene to find Brianna lying motionless on the floor. Her phone was found near her hand, and the large amount of blood suggested she had been stabbed multiple times. Initial thoughts from the authorities pointed to a robbery gone wrong, as the crime scene resembled one. However, further investigation quickly ruled out this theory. No valuables, including cash from the register, had been taken. As the scene unfolded, the detectives began questioning the circumstances, realizing that the attack on Brianna was much more deliberate and violent than they initially suspected. As detectives began their investigation into Brianna Kupfer's murder, they made a chilling discovery: a voice recorder left behind at the crime scene. The recorder, still running, had captured Brianna's final moments inside Croft House. When police pressed play, the first thing they heard was the sound of the store's front doorbell jingling, signaling the entrance of the man who would soon become her attacker. The recording began innocently enough, with Brianna's friendly voice greeting the customer. He asked about purchasing a new couch, and Brianna, as she had been trained, engaged him in conversation, offering assistance. However, as the interaction progressed, things took a dark turn. The man, initially polite, asked Brianna for her social media profile, which she declined. Then his tone shifted, and his questions became more unsettling. He suddenly asked Brianna if she followed Biden's politics. When she answered no, his demeanor changed further, and his comments took a threatening edge. He muttered, "Put your phone down," followed by, "Relax. I'm not going to hurt you." Moments later, the sound of a blade being drawn cut through the tense silence. Brianna's voice, once calm, now showed signs of fear. She warned him that she had already called the police, but the man ignored her pleas. The terrifying sounds of the attack echoed through the recording as the man lunged at Brianna with a knife, stabbing her repeatedly. Her desperate cries for help were soon drowned out by the chilling sounds of her final moments. In addition to the shocking audio, police found other recordings made by the killer, including one in which he expressed his hatred toward women. The discovery of these recordings was crucial, providing an eerie window into the mind of the killer and playing a pivotal role in the investigation. Following the shocking murder of Brianna Kupfer, law enforcement quickly moved to secure the crime scene and gather evidence. Upon arriving at Croft House, officers noted the violent nature of the crime. Brianna's body was found lying on the floor, and her phone was discovered nearby, providing an immediate lead. Investigators began combing through the store, searching for any clues that might shed light on what had happened. The first significant piece of evidence discovered was the murder weapon, a knife that had been bent from the force of the brutal attack. In addition, crime scene investigators found a bloody shoe print on one of the couches, likely left when Brianna attempted to escape, but was cut off by her attacker. This discovery hinted at the struggle she had endured before her life was tragically taken. Forensic experts began working to extract DNA from the knife, and the results provided a breakthrough. The DNA matched that of a man named Shawn Laval Smith. Smith, a 31-year-old with an extensive criminal history, became the prime suspect. However, identifying him proved difficult. Smith had no fixed address, and his history of homelessness made it challenging for detectives to track him down. Despite this, the investigation continued with a relentless focus. The public played a crucial role in the search for Smith. The Los Angeles Police Department announced a $250,000 reward for any information leading to his arrest. This prompted hundreds of tips from the community, further intensifying the search. The tips, coupled with the forensic evidence, eventually led to Smith's identification, setting the stage for the next phase of the investigation. The search for Shawn Laval Smith, the prime suspect in the murder of Brianna Kupfer, intensified as law enforcement released surveillance footage of him from the crime scene. The images were quickly shared through news outlets and social media, generating widespread attention across Los Angeles and beyond. The public's involvement in the case proved to be pivotal as tips flooded in, each one bringing detectives closer to locating Smith. The breakthrough came on January 19, 2022, just 6 days after the murder, when a man driving through Pasadena spotted someone who looked remarkably like the suspect from the surveillance footage. The tipster circled the block, confirming that the man was wearing the same distinctive backpack seen in the footage. Police quickly descended on the area, and the suspect was apprehended. Officers confirmed his identity using a portable fingerprint scanner, which revealed that he was, in fact, Shawn Laval Smith. Smith's arrest was met with a mix of relief and anger. As police dug deeper into his criminal history, they discovered a troubling pattern. Smith had a long list of prior arrests, ranging from minor offenses to more serious crimes, including assaulting a police officer and firing a flare gun at a car with a child inside. Despite his extensive criminal record, Smith had been repeatedly released from prison on short sentences, giving him multiple chances to reoffend. The public was outraged when they learned of Smith's past, with many expressing disbelief that someone with such a violent history had been allowed to walk free before committing murder. This revelation sparked outrage as people demanded accountability for the failures of the justice system that had allowed him to slip through the cracks. The trial of Shawn Laval Smith began with the weight of overwhelming evidence against him. He faced two main charges: first-degree murder with special circumstances and the use of a deadly weapon during the commission of the crime. The prosecution presented a clear and undeniable case, starting with DNA and fingerprint analysis linking Smith directly to the crime scene. This, along with the murder weapon found at the scene and the chilling voice recording captured during the attack, formed the cornerstone of the prosecution's argument. The recording, which documented the brutal stabbing of Brianna Kupfer, left little doubt about the violent nature of the crime and the intent behind it. Despite the evidence, Smith made the controversial decision to represent himself in court. His choice to waive his right to legal counsel was short-lived, however. During a hearing, Smith lashed out at the judge, prompting the court to revoke his right to self-representation. He was then assigned a public defender, but this move seemed to set the tone for the defense strategy. The defense team argued that Smith was insane at the time of the attack, attempting to shift the focus to his mental state. However, psychiatric evaluations showed that Smith was fully aware of his actions during the murder. This assessment undermined the defense's claims, revealing that Smith had premeditated the attack. The prosecution pointed out his actions leading up to the murder, including his deliberate selection of Brianna as a victim after scoping out several businesses earlier that day. The emotional toll on Brianna's family was palpable throughout the trial. The judge, recognizing the gravity of the situation, made the decision to keep the audio recordings of Brianna's final moments private to protect her family from further trauma. The case continued to unfold, leaving a community devastated by the violence and a family seeking justice for their loved one. On August 29, 2024, nearly 3 years after Brianna Kupfer's tragic death, Shawn Laval Smith was found guilty of first-degree murder and the use of a deadly weapon. The jury deliberated for a mere hour before returning their verdict, a clear and decisive outcome. The evidence presented during the trial had been overwhelming. DNA and fingerprint analysis, the chilling voice recordings of the attack, and the premeditated nature of the crime all pointed to Smith's guilt. Brianna's family, while relieved by the conviction, faced the harsh reality that no verdict could ever undo the pain of their loss. In October 2024, Smith was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. This sentence, though final, did little to quell the anger felt by the public, particularly when they learned about Smith's extensive criminal history. His past arrests and repeated chances from the justice system had allowed him to continue offending until he finally took a life. Many voiced their outrage over the leniency Smith had received in the past, calling for reform in the criminal justice system to prevent similar tragedies. The media played a crucial role in keeping Brianna Kupfer's case in the public eye, amplifying calls for change and highlighting flaws in the justice system. Brianna's family, in honor of her memory, established the Brianna Kupfer Foundation, a nonprofit focused on fighting violence against women. While the trial and sentencing of Shawn Laval Smith in October 2024 provided legal closure, it sparked public outrage due to his extensive criminal history and repeated chances given by the justice system. Many questioned the effectiveness of California's parole policies, as Smith had been allowed to reoffend multiple times before committing murder. The case became a catalyst for criticism of the legal system, particularly regarding its leniency towards repeat offenders. Brianna's death exposed systemic issues, leading to calls for reform in parole policies, sentencing practices, and the treatment of dangerous criminals. Despite Smith's conviction and life sentence, the family's grief remained, and their fight for justice continued. Brianna's story serves as a painful reminder of the flaws in the system and the urgent need for change, sparking ongoing conversations about justice reform.